Hello, my beautiful angelic humans. I'm just going to do my Atlantis reading now, and it's been a very weird week, actually. It's been a very weird week, and I just want to say, just before I continue with this, that if you're in a place where you're very empathetic, where you're very much coming into your heart all of the time, and have in your heart this vision of utopia, this vision of moving forward, you're contributing, you're in service, and you're feeling very joyful about that. I just want to say, it may have been quite an intense week for being challenged and having buttons pressed and all sorts of things. And the way to deal with that is to just stay in that place of love, loving detachment, loving service. I'm here to serve, I'm here to serve. It's not about me. Know your truth, know who you are, know what you're here to do, and know that whatever is said, it's ultimately we can talk about utopia. We can talk about it until the cows come home. But if we have in our hearts any place where we are not accepting it, not embracing it as a possibility, then we will be shown that in some way. And yet, as with everything, if you really have a utopian vision, the way to deal with it is love, love, love. Keep loving, keep putting love in there, keep putting love into your own heart, keep putting love into all the questions around it, put love into all the buttons that get pressed, put love into the button pressers. Just keep loving all of it. And I want to say just very quickly that when we talk about focusing on the most positive outcome, that doesn't mean that we don't also acknowledge where we are. Because sometimes in order to know what we want to create, we need to briefly acknowledge where we are. And that's not the same as dwelling on endless dystopian theories and stories and reading books and going to see movies and all of this stuff. Sometimes we just have to acknowledge, right, okay, imagine you're driving from London to Manchester and you suddenly realise at some point that actually you're on the M6 on the way to Birmingham. It's not going to help you to sit in your car driving to Birmingham thinking positively, hoping that that's going to get you to Manchester. What you need to do sometimes is to stop the car, reassess, reevaluate and decide, okay, I'm going to get onto the M1 now, because there is Birmingham out there. Birmingham exists. Manchester exists. And if you really, really want to get to Manchester, you have a beautiful vision of all the happy times that you can have there and how great it feels and how wonderful it is, and that's the place that you want to get to. If you have all of that, that is great, because that is your intention. You've set your intention. And what we're doing here is we are creating pictures where pictures have not existed for us before, of that consciousness of utopia and how it might look and feel. But that doesn't mean to say that we do not need to acknowledge Birmingham as a possibility from time to time in order to recorrect our course, get our car onto the right blooming track and go moving into the right direction. So I just want to say, whatever your motivation is, whatever your thoughts are, bless them with love and continue to reaffirm your intention to move towards utopia. Okay, so I'm just going to say that because we are all human and we are in a process, and the way to get there, in a sense, which is already being there now, is to acknowledge that we cannot get there from the consciousness of the old way. So in other words, if we attack ourselves or we attack each other or we get into a head place of you're not doing this or you're not saying that, then we are not in a space of love. We are not in a utopia creating space. So we need to get back into that space, and we need to also hold in love and respect every other possibility while carefully constructing utopia in our hearts, minds and imaginations, okay? Not burying our heads in the sand and denying. Okay, so let's just see what the cards will give us about any of that. I'm off the soapbox now. Nature, how lovely. So it's all very simple in the mind of God. It's all very, very simple. So this card says, the Golden Atlanteans honoured every aspect of the natural world, understanding that everyone and everything is part of Source. Humans, animals and nature worked together, and there was no fear between the species. Plants reciprocated with a bountiful harvest. Animals gave their produce freely and lovingly, recognizing the divine uniqueness of all life forms. The people never tried to alter or interfere with the genetic blueprint of life. Now, that's really interesting that that's come up, because that's one of the things that I've been feeling very passionately about recently, and that is definitely for me a part of the Birmingham story. This whole genetically modified food thing, you know, creator, the divine, source, God, whatever, infinite love in manifestation on earth, had a plan, has a beautiful plan for how everything coexists within the setup that's already existing. How everything coexists within what is existing. So, in other words, you know, this always used to fascinate me, things like this, that you'd scratch yourself on stinging nettles, and stinging nettles always grow side by side with dock, which is really healing for the stinging nettle burns. And, you know, that's just one tiny, tiny, tiny example of the intricate, magical and beautiful creation that we exist within. And when we start to tamper with that creation, that's when, you know, we begin to really, really express how out of alignment we've become with source and with love. So we need to correct that, absolutely. So I'd encourage everyone to spread awareness of that, to be mindful of what you're choosing, not only with your thoughts, but when you're in the supermarket as well, because we're actually, you know, we're existing practically and physically as well in this time. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And the message in the card says, this card reminds you to recognise and honour your uniqueness and that of everyone else. Consciously contribute to the well-being of the natural world and notice how people, animals and plants respond to you. Your guidance is to check that your thoughts, words and deeds are harmless and well-intentioned. Then your rewards will be bountiful beyond your expectations. So that's exactly, absolutely echoes what I've just said about staying in a loving space. And again, you know, that Einstein quote about how we can't create new solutions from the same consciousness. We can't, you know, solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. If we want to create a new world, a new way of being, if we want to be in a new place in the way that we actually live, we have to actually create it from a new consciousness. We have to allow also the Creator to create it. We have to work in harmony with Creator and know that all things can come back into balance. That's also an aspect of it. And we also have to trust ourselves, trust our vision, trust each other. And even when there is anger and response and all of that stuff that happens, just know that even that is a natural part of the process. It's a natural part of what's happening here, because we are all going to be in different places of acceptance, of belief, of understanding, of rejection of it, of disappointment, of all of those things will be coming up. But if we hold all of them, just like nature, in a perfect blueprint, in that perfect plan of love and respect and cherishing and honouring of all things, while knowing what we ultimately are seeking, it's far more healthier than accepting one and rejecting the other. And I hope that all makes sense. I'm trying to bring a holistic view here so that we really are thinking of how we are grounding this new reality into the reality that appears to already be. Okay, so that we've got a context. Love, light, peace, blessings and big angel hugs to everyone. Thank you for listening. Bye. Have a great week.